Sup, though. Let's get it. Come on, Mr. Knight. Fuck.
So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years.
Right.
And to her credit, I've never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up, it always springs to mind, and probably always will. Even makes me a bit ill whenever I think about it, actually. So Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, so this was about early 80s, I believe, she was a young woman in her mid-20s. She's one of those real kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know? And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So driving into the city, which was about a 2-hour drive from town, she saw a man walking down the side of the road.
Right.
As she neared, he turned and, in typical hitchhiker manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me he was really polite, if not a bit shy, when he asked for a lift into the city.
That's how they always start off, polite as a motherfucker. And then once they get in the car, it's free game.
Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who then tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead.
Dumbass.
They talked pleasantly for most of the trip. About friends, the news, etc. You know, happy small talk.
Right.
She felt that they were getting along very well, and even bought him dinner at the pit stop a little over halfway there.
Oh.
She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the things they talked about was money, and how he was pretty damn strapped for cash, which was why he was hitchhiking in the first place. But he eventually relented, and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city, he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food, and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown.
Right.
Before getting out, he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her one day and maybe catch up.
No.
Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and drove off with the warm feeling of having done a good deed.
Fuck, no. No.
Now, I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me out so much as a kid. How nice everything seemed to have worked out.
Yeah.
Nikki gets this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she tells me this next part.
Oh, shit.
How a week later she got a phone call from the same man she had picked up. He didn't let her get a word in edgewise after hello, and told her that she should thank God that she was raised so nice. Because when he first got in the car, he was planning on raping and murdering her once they got to that pit stop.
What the
That he was going to steal that car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked with him so kindly and even treated him to dinner, with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady.
I don't think nobody would.
The man's final words on the phone were, "Please, Nikki, please, never ever pick up another hitchhiker." Then he hung up the phone.
Lesson learned,
Nikki
bitch.
never got a call from him again. When she tried redialing the number, she got a payphone.
Fuck.
And so, I've learned one important thing from this story. That I'm going to take that man's advice and never, ever pick up a hitchhiker.
Right. That man. Fuck. That was too
The
close
Wrong
to call.
Hitchhiker by Nathan Bartholomew.
Who the fuck is this voice? Did he switch?
I've learned one thing from my one and only experience picking up a hitchhiker. Don't pick up a hitchhiker.
Right.
It was a Saturday night, probably around 1 in the morning. I was driving down the 542 in New Jersey, a route I commonly took to get into town. It was a long stretch of nothing but woods on either side with the occasional residence. I was on my way back home from town, and as usual at this time of night around our quiet old town, there was not a single other car on the road.
Right.
I turned on the off-road lights on my Jeep to have optimal vision on the unlit highway, which allowed me to spot somebody far down the road, just standing at the side. As I got closer, I saw him raise his arm up and stick up his thumb. He was trying to hitch a ride. My heart started racing. I had no idea if I should stop or not.
Right.
I slowed down just to get a better look at the guy, first of all. He seemed like a younger man, maybe 28. He had on a light gray hoodie with the hood over his head and blue denim jeans. The time to make a decision was immediate, and with a lack of my better judgment in the heat of the moment, I came to a stop, rolled down the window, and asked, "Where are you heading to, friend?" "Just up the road," he said in a deep, quiet tone. "Hop in," I called out the window. He opened the door to my Jeep and stepped inside slowly. Jeep Wranglers have very tight seals on the doors, so when he tried to close the door the first time, it didn't shut. I politely said, "Oh, the door didn't shut. Just open and slam it shut real hard. These doors are hard to close." The body language he was giving off in response was unsettling. About 3 seconds after I had finished my sentence, he looked at me, then turned his head slowly to the right, and again waited 3 or 4 more seconds before finally opening the door and then slamming it back shut.
Fuck
By the way
off.
this guy was moving, I already regretted my decision.
Okay, so if you already regretted your decision, why the fuck didn't you just kick him out? You playing. You about that bullshit. Oh my goodness.
To let him in. I put my foot on the gas and we started moving along the road. The speed limit on this road was 55, but I was going 75 just to get the guy to his destination quicker.
Okay.
"So, how far did you say you're going?" There was an awkward gap of silence before he replied with, "Just a few miles up."
He lying.
I wanted to turn the radio on to kill this awkward and downright creepy silence, but something in my head told me not to for whatever reason. Suddenly, I could see just through the corner of my eye that the man had turned his head and was staring in my direction. At this point, I was telling myself that I needed to get this guy out of my car. For a good mile, I felt his gaze just hitting me like a brick, and all the while I tried my best not to look back.
He fucking playing, man.
Finally, he turned his head the other way and said, "You know, I've been wondering for the longest time if it's just worth it to end it all." I looked at him in confusion. He dug his hand into his pocket and said, "I've been carrying this knife with me for the past few weeks."
Okay, so if a motherfucker tells you and he's with you, right, in the car or anywhere he's with you and he's a random ass person and he says, I was wondering if I should send it all. Bitch. So I said send it all. End it all. Bitch. No. I'm not going with you. No, I still have my life. I have a life to live. I have dreams, goals. I need to bust me a nut. I have things I need to do before I decided to end it. So if you want to end it all, please, by all means, go ahead. Just do that shit alone. I'm going to go ahead and push you out the car so you can go ahead and do that. If that push didn't end it all when I pushed you, fuck. You're not taking me with you. What the fuck? That's what it sounds like.
When the right time would come. He pulled out a big red knife from his pocket, and at that instant I felt like my stomach had dropped out of my body. I told him to put the knife away immediately. He told me in a calm, emotionless voice, "Pull over next to that sign." I did what he said, coming to a stop next to a speed limit sign, and what followed still haunts me. He began to slit his forearm next to 3 other scars from previous assumed self-inflicted cuts and let out a disturbing moan. I managed to choke out the words, "You need to get out of my car right now, buddy." He looked at me again and said, "Get out of the car.
Oh.
I want to show you something."
The fuck? You wanna...
I told him no, and he raised his knife up closer to me as an obvious threat. "Just get out for a second. There's something I want to show you."
He gonna show you his
behind
dick.
that sign. I knew my life was on the line and I had to be smart. I said, "Yeah, okay, man. Let's go." I opened the door to my Jeep, making a point of leaving it open, raised my hands in the air and backed away slowly from the door. He too left the car and started walking over to my side. At the exact moment that he was directly behind the car, I jumped back in, threw it into drive, and floored it down the road, never looking back. I got back home within 10 minutes, still breathing heavily and wanting to throw up. This was the scariest thing that has ever happened to me, and I urge everybody and anybody that if you by some chance see a hitchhiker on a dead road at some odd hours of the night, do not take any course of action other than speeding right past them.
I don't know what that was.
Three months after I turned 16 in 2005, I got my first car, a 99 Toyota Camry. On a warm Saturday night, when my friend Alex invited me over to one of his friend's big parties, I knew I wouldn't be in a condition to drive the Camry home afterward.
Right.
So we carpooled with Alex's girlfriend, Brianna. We lived in the countryside of Virginia, meaning less big parties. Meaning when there was a big party, it was a huge deal and everyone would go. We lived about 5 to 10 minutes away from this kid's house. I knew where he lived as I was acquainted with him, but not exactly friends.
That is the country.
The whole ride there, we took the same 2-lane highway type road through the woods, and this kid's house was actually on this road further down. At certain points on this road, there were a few houses on either side, and then it would just go back to being a long, empty highway again. The house was tiny, like a lot of houses around the area, but the party was held outside anyways, since its closest neighbors were relatively far away, and noise wasn't an issue. I'll skip most of the party up until the point that Brianna, who was supposed to be our designated driver, had to suddenly leave for a small family emergency. Well, fast forward another few hours and another few drinks, and I could barely even walk straight. I checked my watch, and it was like 2 in the morning. I figured it was time to go. I started looking for Alex, but I couldn't find him anywhere. In fact, it seemed like everybody I knew had already left. I could barely even think straight, but I was still furious at the fact that Alex could have actually left without me. I asked to use the party host's phone and dialed Alex's home number. After 2 tries, I gave up and then realized I shouldn't wake his family up.
The fuck?
So, literally not knowing what else to do, I dizzily stepped out onto the road and began walking back home. I knew this walk would take anywhere from half an hour to an hour in my condition. Maybe after 15 minutes of walking down the road, the slight shine of car headlights on the road was fading in from behind me. Jumping for joy inside, I lifted up my arm and stuck out my thumb. As the car neared, it slowed down and came to a stop right next to me.
Fuck no, I would've walked.
The man driving the 98 Ford Explorer rolled down the window and asked where you headed. I told him my house was just down the road and beyond a right turn, probably slurring my words beyond comprehension. He chuckled and told me to hop in. I thanked him and joyously hopped into the truck. I was exhausted, and I remember completely disregarding things the guy was asking me because I was so close to just passing out. And that's what happened. The memories of being in that truck turned to a fog, as I'm sure I passed out.
Fuck. He's gonna hurt you, molest you, kill you.
The next thing I remember, I woke up still in the moving truck. The guy looked at me and laughed, but didn't say anything. I looked around and realized the road we were on wasn't familiar. I nervously asked, where are we going? He then said, so what were you doing out this late anyway? As the man answered my very straightforward question with another irrelevant question, the sobering reality of the situation hit me. You can let me out anywhere, I told the man. The man responded with a firm no. I felt like throwing up as he said that. No, I really actually felt like I was going to throw up. I started to gag as I felt more and more nauseous by the second. The man took his eyes off the road to look at me, and that's when I thought of the perfect distraction. I turned in his direction as I continued to gag, and he started to kind of lean away and slow down the car. Thankfully, I drank as much as I did, because I finally threw up and made a point of doing it all over the man's lap.
Ew.
The man yelled in frustration and stopped the car, and that's when I took it upon myself to run for my life into the woods and duck behind a few bushes. The man came following into the woods with a flashlight, and on 2 separate occasions, he shined the light straight over me without noticing.
That dick.
Eventually, I heard his footsteps walk even further into the woods past me. That was when I ran back to his truck, but unfortunately, he was smart enough to lock it.
Fuck.
By some miracle, I saw another car approaching in the distance, and I ran out into the middle of the street, waving my arms like a lunatic. The car tried to avoid me, but I wouldn't let it. They were forced to stop, and I yelled at them to help me before they came back. Once I told them that I was kidnapped by the man who was driving that Ford Explorer, the driver agreed to give me a lift. Not to the police station or anything, but to my house. I made it back safely, where I couldn't thank the driver enough.
Nice ass house.
I immediately woke up my parents and told them. My dad wanted to know if I got his tag number, and then I felt like punching myself in the face. I failed to get the simplest information from the guy that would have allowed me to actually properly report him. All I knew was that he drove a faded blue '99 Ford Explorer. I made sure to give Alex a piece of my mind, and part of me always held a grudge against him ever since, just for abandoning me at a party without telling me.
Make sure that car not
I
out
haven't
there.
seen him in 4 years now, however, and this was actually the first time I even thought about this incident for almost a year now. As time goes on, even the worst of memories may start to fade, but after writing this to share with the internet, it's once again fresh in my mind.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed. But be sure to keep those lights off and tune into the video that Mr. Nightmare and I have done on my channel about horrific hitchhiking murders. You can either click on screen now or in the description below to watch that video, and be sure to subscribe while you're there, because you won't want to miss what's next.
Don't look at me like that, deep in my soul. What the fuck? Don't look at me like that. I hate that shit. Oh my god. So who the okay, so obviously they collab. So if anybody's familiar with his channel, and if he does similar stuff like Mr. Nightmare does, please let me know. And if you want me to react to his videos, please let me know, because you know I'm gonna keep reacting to Mr. Nightmare's videos because his shits are fucking dope. But as far as hitchhiking, man, I never did it. I thought about it, but I never did it. And solely because you can't trust people out here, man. You really can't, unless you fuck with that person, or you know this person, like know them. You know where they live, you know their family, you know where they work. Like, I think that would be the only time you should ever hitch a ride. But if you don't know this person or these people, don't do it. Please. Please. You gotta be smarter than that. Right? Because if you're trying to hitch a ride and you don't know this person, anything is free game, right? You can't trust motherfuckers out there, and vice versa. If you're the person that's driving and you're picking up, you see somebody stranded out on the street, you just can't trust people. And I'm a good, kind-hearted, charismatic person, right? I love everybody. I love them. But see, this is, I don't know if I'm contradicting myself, but because I don't have a car right now, and the only way I get around is the bus. But you know, when I get my car, or when I get a new car, and I see stuff like that, if I see people that need a ride or stuff like that, it's going to be a 50-50 on me picking up that person, you know? Because I moved to a whole different state because I'm originally from Maryland and I live in North Carolina, and when I first moved down here, the level of trust that I had for people, or haven't had for people, is at an all-time new. I don't really trust people out here like that. But I don't know, man. People do whatever the fuck they want, but you just gotta be really smart and cautious about who you picking up and who you're getting in a car with, because chances are, if it's a random ass person, make sure your guard and your radar is on high alert. And I said this before in a video, I don't know what video I said this in, but I'm a people's person and I catch people's vibes pretty fast. And if I'm catching a ride and the second or a couple of seconds, but right before I get in your car and I'm catching like this huge ass negative vibe, or like I feel like something's off, or something is a bit don't seem right, I'm not getting in your car. I would rather walk miles to my destination than getting into a stranger's car. No, I'm not doing that. Nope. But hey, that's just me. Like for example, I'll give you an example, right? There was this one time where while I was working at Chipotle, I'm still working. While I was working at Chipotle, and I still am. There was this one time where I missed the last bus. I was closing. I missed the last bus, and it takes me by the bus. It takes me from my job to home, or my home to job, about 15 minutes bus ride, right? About 10 minutes by car. But by walking, that's a couple of miles. Like that's a couple of hours. And I walked that shit. I walked that. And at the time I didn't have no money for Uber or taxis. I was fucked. And I don't really know people out here like that to call up and be like, yo, can you come and get me? I can't. I don't. But I walked that shit. It took me a minute, but I got home nice and safe. So all I'm saying is, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna get into somebody's car and hitch a ride, or if you're the person giving a ride to a hitchhiker, just please be cautious and be smart about it. That's all I have to say about it, because I don't want to see none of y'all be like, damn, I fucked up, or I wasn't smart about it. Just be aware. That's all I'm saying. Just be aware and be smart, be cautious. That's it. Because I love y'all, and I don't want nothing to happen to you all. I really don't. So with all that being said, keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy and safe and smart and cautious. My family.